Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me?
Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk lamb, or you? You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth.
Hello everybody and welcome to Survivor Oz, Australia's only Survivor podcast. I think so anyway. I'll let Ryan have one. I'm not sure if he's still doing that. But anyway, we are back for another Oztopsy episode covering Survivor Cambodia Second Chance, season 31. I'm not Ben Waterworth. I am Noah. Ben is out watching cats because he lives an exciting life. So hopefully he finds one. As I said, we're talking about Survivor Cambodia episode 8 entitled You Call, We'll Haul. And we'll get to hauling and calling because that was an amazing scene. I'm joined by 3 different Ozlets to talk about this episode from the pretty good city of Melbourne. It is Cable Brandon. Cable, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, and I'm actually super pumped to be on this little discussion on this episode because I think it was one of the better ones, and I was sort of shaking towards the end. I was really excited for that idol play, and obviously when those Wentworth votes were coming up, it was who's it going to be, who's going home.
Yeah, we'll cover all of that. It was quite dramatic. That's one way to put it. Colin, welcome back to the Oztopsy. It's probably your 3rd, 4th of the season, something like that.
Yeah, I think 3rd. This is the episode I think I enjoyed the most, at least of the ones I've been on. Probably not my favorite episode of the season, but up there, I'd say. At least top 2 or 3. And I think most importantly, this was the episode that has me interested in what's going to happen for the rest of the season, because it seemed to go a little bit dull there for a minute, but I love this week.
It was definitely a good episode for podcasting about, that's for sure. And Ben's not going to get to see the episode till a day later. He messaged me saying, is it good? And I'm like, no, you don't get to talk about a good episode. No, I didn't say that, but I was thinking that.
You'll have to listen to the Oztopsy to find out.
Yeah, hosted by... enjoy your cats, Ben. And of course, 3rd and final Ozlet for this week, coming straight to you from Long Island, disappeared off the radar. Don't know where the Islanders are, but hopefully they are found soon. It is Jordan Rose. Jordan, welcome back.
Yeah, they moved to Brooklyn, which is still on Long Island, but it's geographically on Long Island, but it's in New York City, so
they're close.
The New York Islanders, the hockey team, but in terms of the Survivor episode, I don't care that I lost my pony. That was probably the best vote off in a very long time. I'm so glad that... Well, I wasn't a fan of Savage this season, so yeah, I'm happy to see him get blindsided that way. It's just so great to see him, say, unbelievable, like he got screwed by the Outcasts twist, and now he gets screwed by the idol play. It's poetic, as Jeff Varner would say. But I actually thought it was a pretty terrible episode, I guess, up until that point. Like, there was all strategy talk, and it was really dull. And there was only one character scene, like with Keith, so that was the redeeming point of the episode, and the idol play was fantastic, but other than that, I didn't like it.
I disagree.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one then.
Look, but having said that, I do understand where Jordan's coming from, but I thought if you're a hardcore fan of Survivor and there's people that we haven't seen much of in the season, it was great. We finally saw a bit of Wigglesworth. We saw Keith a lot more. I felt like there was people we sort of got to reconnect with that we hadn't seen a lot of in recent weeks. So, yeah, look, maybe I've got to watch it again, and maybe I might agree a little bit with Jordan, but I still think there was a lot of epicness with this episode and a lot of fun. But
we should point out Andrew Savage voted out in the same episode as he was last time, I believe, and also the same day. So Andrew Savage has trouble making it past day 21 of Survivor, which is kind of interesting, though. Second chances. We've had people doing worse, Jeff Varner, Vitas, Shireen, all that, and then people doing better with Wentworth and all that, and now we've got Andrew Savage smack bang in the middle, destined to always be day 21 vote out. But he did make the jury this time, as Abby Maria said. Yeah, Colin?
Have we had a single person do better yet? I don't think so, have we?
Kimmy, Kelly.
Oh, I mean of the ones who have been voted out so far.
Oh,
I don't think anybody...
Well, I guess we wouldn't because it's pre-merge, so... Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are some pre-merge people out here. But,
well, that's a good point. I don't think we're going to have many improvements because obviously Fishback and Wigglesworth, they would have to get first to... Yeah, they would have to get first to do better. There's a few close to finals, so... Like Spencer and Cass and that, we're going to have trouble doing better. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to have too many improvements, although I guess All-Stars didn't really either. So, yeah, we'll take note of that. But some of them are starting to get there. Like Joe's nearly bet his record. So, and hopefully he's voted out soon. But so yeah, that's something to look out for. But I just found that stat about Andrew Savage interesting. We kind of talked about our feelings of this episode already. I'm kind of in the middle of everyone. I thought it was a very exciting episode, but there were some, not dull moments, but there were some moments where it's like got a bit repetitive. I just was watching it thinking, oh, this is a decent episode, like alright challenges. The Keith moment was amazing, and we'll get to that. That's one of my favourite moments in Survivor history. That sounded like a Keith laugh there. Okay.
Oh, that laugh was great.
Yeah, and I was thinking, yeah, it's a decent episode, and then the Tribal Council was really good. So, I think maybe the best place to start. Actually, no, screw up that. Let's just get the challenges out of the way. It'd be good so we can talk about everything that happened with Joe and Steven and everything Savage. So let's just talk about the challenges first.
Okay.
So
we're doing the team challenge first?
Yeah, well, we'll cover them both because there's not really too much to add. Obviously, yeah, the team challenge was the rafting and the puzzle, and I loved the Borneo callback. That was amazing. Wigglesworth seemed a bit embarrassed there, and she said, yeah, and he couldn't even swim. But it kind of wasn't even the same challenge, was it? It was just, yes, the first time we did a rowing challenge. And like, yeah, well, the first time you did a puzzle challenge too, like, it was kind of a bit weird there. But I love that Wigglesworth got her redemption. Not that we heard much about it afterwards, because once again, 6 weeks in a row, Kelly Wigglesworth does not receive a confession. So that was a fun challenge. And then the next one was Keith's favourite balls. He won that one. Jeremy was out first. He wants redemption. It was a decent one, but it's kind of a boring challenge to watch, like watching people balance balls. But it was quite dramatic though.
I was actually annoyed that that's 2 immunity challenges in a row that were balancing balls. Like, surely they can do something else and then have that next week? No?
Okay, well, this is post-merge, new Survivor. Everything is balancing balls or puzzles.
Well, I did find it funny. I have to go back and do a count, but I reckon, I'm going to go out and guess, I reckon Jeff Probst said at least 10 times, Joe's balls are moving. I reckon he said that many times because he just loves saying it.
Yeah, there was a lot of Joe's balls in this episode. Well, what did you think of the challenges, Cabe?
I did like the rowing one. Look, I do. The nostalgic, in me sort of does like the throwback. But I agree with you. Like the rowing part of it was one sort of part of it, and that the rest of the challenge and collecting the boxes had nothing to do with Borneo.
And Borneo was a one-person rowing thing too. This is like a whole Viking boat or something.
But I did like. I did write down in my notes. I did like that they sort of did show that Kelly seemed to be helping the team and directing the team and telling them how to row. So there seemed like a bit of leadership from Kelly from that point of view with her experience, and they did well. But also, when they got close to the other boat, they didn't seem to be too scared at hitting them or at least pushing them away. Whereas Stephen at one point looked like Stephen almost shit himself when the boat was going to hit him on the way up.
Probes called it Wigglesworth's team, and the green team or the blue team. Like, I love that he was calling it Wigglesworth's team.
The only bit of the challenge I was sort of confused with was the last bit. Is those blocks are quite heavy, and you've got to move them into position, especially that top one. And it's not easy to just keep rotating that block around. Why wouldn't you get them in the right order on the ground where it's a lot easier to maneuver, then put them in place? That's what I didn't understand.
I was thinking that, but on my rewatch, I did pick up a line from Jeff who said, first you've got to get them into the, whatever you call it, the holder.
Okay.
So I guess they had to.
Because I think when they first got them up on the beach, and they obviously were discussing and moving them out, I did see, I think, Wigglesworth and Wentworth were looking at the blocks, and they did have, I think, 2 or 3 stacked at one point. It looked like they were looking at them, and then maybe that's when Jeff gave them the little nudge, you got to have them in their spots. Okay, I'll take that back, but to me it just seems more logical to solve the puzzle outside and then put it in, but anyway.
And what about the immunity?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't mind those challenges, and I understand you have to have challenges that are sort of are fairly equal for everyone or give everyone an equal shot, but to have 2 pretty much similar challenges that are related to having a disc and having a ball resting on it and trying to maintain that balance, like 2 of them in a row, to me is a bit just lame. I think they need to change it up.
Well, Joe's good at those challenges, so we're going to see a lot of those challenges for a while. Colin, challenges this week, we'll get them out of the way. There was 2 of them, they were decent.
Yeah, first one was mostly funny because of the whole callback to Borneo. Kelly, you participated in this challenge when it only had 1 person and had nothing to do with puzzles or retrieving pieces. It was probably a challenge that was meant to be a callback for, one of the players who've already been voted out and they're gone. So how do we twist this around for be relevant to Wigglesworth?
Next week, Kimmy, you were in a challenge. How does this relate to this challenge?
I did like it gave us a chance to hear Wigglesworth speak. I mean, it served its purpose there. But I actually liked the second one. I know it was, kind of similar to what we've seen a lot of, but the storyline this week helped that challenge be more intense. I don't think there has been an individual immunity challenge in the last few seasons that I was that tense towards the end. And granted, that probably had a lot to do with the fact that I just wanted Joe to not win. I was also rooting for Tasha and Keith too, but yeah, I mean, it had a good build up with the whole Joe needs to lose or Joe's going to eventually lose, because I think we all know at this point that Joe's going to lose at some point, and that's going to be the episode he's gone. So your tension in the episode is going to come from whether he wins the challenge or not whether anybody is or isn't going to vote him out. So for that reason, I did enjoy the challenge at the time when I was watching it. When I go back and watch it again, I'm probably just going to be like, I think that ball moved, or no, probably didn't. Maybe an inch, maybe not. There's probably not a lot to it, but good storyline.
Is it not like 90% of the time in Survivor, though, when there's a confessional of, I need to win this, they win it? Like, there's a few times when that didn't happen. Troyzan comes to mind when he didn't win that slidey one. But most of the time, I'm thinking of Panna and Philippines, even Abby. It's like, I need to win this. And then, of course, they win it. So that kind of made me think, is Joe going to win it then?
Yeah, I mean, but I think we did have at least, Steven was clearly in jeopardy, and because so early in the episode it was set up that Joe might be going, and we hadn't even seen the strategizing yet, I was thinking, well, anything could happen. But even just like if we look at how that challenge was edited, another smart thing is that we were watching Joe's balls wobbling all over the place.
Yeah.
And Keith was probably not shown at all. And then it was just, and usually you get that, but then you'll have like that 30 seconds of tension where, oh, now Keith's are finally starting to move. You kind of can anticipate whoever they're showing struggling more is probably going to lose. But then we didn't see Keith struggle at all. It just came out of nowhere. Keith's balls drop. We're going to have our innuendo of the episode analysis now after this. But that sort of came out of nowhere. So again, I think it was even though I was rooting for Keith, it was a pleasant surprise that they kind of were able to surprise at least me as an audience member that Keith didn't win that one.
We should point out Kimmy Kappenberg put in a wonderful performance in that challenge. Round of applause for Kimmy Kappenberg because that
She's
was
done something for the first time since
Jeff said,
episode.
Kimmy doing something. I was like, you knew she wasn't going to win, but I'm like, yeah, hold on, Kimmy, I'm loving this. Jordan, what did you think of the two challenges this episode, reward and immunity?
Pretty standard, I guess. Even numbered challenge, post-merge, divide into two teams, get stuff, complete a puzzle, and win some sort of reward. I think that challenge was in Samoa with the blocks. There was in Samoa.
I know they've done it for a Redemption Island duel. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
When did they
like every
maybe
Redemption
Samoa.
Island? Yeah, in Samoa they had the attack zone where two people tried to get past one person or something. But
I'm reading here. Challenge from Blood versus Water.
Yeah.
So where was the Sierra? You failed this.
Well, because Sierra sat out most of hers.
Yeah.
No, it was Redemption Island, and she wasn't on.
Yeah. The blocks come from Redemption Island, but I guess the rowing aspect of it apparently is from Borneo.
Yeah.
Don't remind me that we could have had Stephanie Valencia. You participated in this challenge.
Oh no! Damn you, Monica Padilla. Sorry, George.
And then I don't think it would have been easier actually to do the blocks on the beach, just because you'd have to stack them on top of each other, and they're so heavy that it's tough to rotate them on the beach. Or if you're doing it on the ground, it's tough to see whether the colors are different on all four sides. So I think it was easier to put them in the structure. And then the reward, I was surprised that there was no idle clue, or like I thought they might be getting letters from home. So again, it's like the reward is like a meh reward. Yeah. And then the immunity challenge, standard Blood versus or San Juan del Sur challenge, and Keith, the winner from last time, and Joe, the winner of everything, just competing, and at the end, and Joe wins. So it's pretty standard stuff.
Isn't it funny? Because I think didn't Spencer win that same challenge last week and was beaten by Joe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, Tasha won it.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the way
but she was in the last. She was like third place. She was the second last person.
Jeff's commentary nowadays is like, and Joe's looking to steal the record. I'm like, Jeff, that's not how Survivor Immunity challenges work. You don't steal it from people.
Jordan brought up a good point. I was actually surprised too with the whole Survivor Cafe, bagels. I was actually thinking there would be a clue there for an idol or some sort of something.
Well, we'll talk about that now, I guess.
Maybe there was, and just nobody found it.
Yeah, that's but at the same time, we don't know how idols are working. We've got a little preview next week of something potentially idolish, but we don't know if they're at camp or Ben's idea of having it at the challenge or whatever, which could be next week. And then luckily Ben's not here to rub it in that he was right. So
maybe it should be at the reward.
Yeah, I don't know. There probably wasn't one just because we don't know what they're going to be doing with idols yet. And two people have idols already, but now that Wentworth's idol is down, they probably start to bring in some to mix it up a bit. Just on that reward challenge, I think I prefer the token chains of make steps with a pattern on it rather than just 12 boxes around. But anyway, reward, amazing scene. One of the funniest things I've seen in Survivor ever. I was on the floor laughing. It was hilarious. This is what I voted for. This is what I've been waiting for. This is who I was campaigning for. Keith frickin' Nail is just really bringing his old gloriness back with this hilarious scene where I thought from the get-go it was kind of weird that we were seeing these rickshaws. I'm like, don't see that often in Survivor. Or tuk-tuks, I should say. And then we had a Wentworth confession. I'm like, geez, they're really talking up the tuk-tuks here. We had showed big swooping footage of it, and then we had a Wentworth confessional, and then they went on. It was Sierra talking, Joe talking, Sierra, Joe. But we did get a Kimmy in there, which is great. Finally, some more Kimmy. I'm loving that. Kimmy and Keith in one scene. This is just my wet dream episode.
Oh, Jesus.
Kimmy, Keith, and Kelly Wigglesworth went to a reward together. My three favourite contestants on this season. It was amazing.
Your KKK, you're saying?
Let's not bring that back. It's KKW. It's Wigglesworth.
It was nice to hear Kimmy even say that it was her first ever award in Survivor. So
yeah, but then I was thinking, Kimmy, you went out fifth.
No, but yeah, exactly. But even then, don't forget that. But don't forget the Australian Outback rewards weren't really rewards back then. One Dorito and a bit of Mountain Dew is not really much of a reward, is it?
Well, it's like in Heroes vs. Villains. It's like, Jerry, this is my first ever immunity win. It's like, you've only been at the merge for a few days.
And let's be honest, Kimmy didn't win a reward in Australia, but her team did get an entire pig, which I'm sure ranks right up there with this one.
And chickens. Yeah, I wonder if there's any meat at that reward. Did she have to wave a finger at anyone? So, delaying the inevitable. Keith, he's just chilling, eating his food, and then he goes, I might have a go at this tuk-tuk. Gets on the tuk-tuk, goes for a spin. We've actually see a smile or even an expression out of Kelly Wigglesworth for the first time this season, jumping up and down. This was just hilarious. Keith cruising along the beach, and then he drives up and he says, come on, I need some passengers. And then everyone's getting in. He's going over bumps. He's four-wheel drive. He's saying he needs his Cambodia license and that he's going to be a cab driver. You call Will Hall. And this is what I've been waiting for Keith Nail, and this just made the episode. This was better than the Tribal Council in my eyes. I've already watched this scene 5 times since it aired. Fantastic. Colin, am I crazy?
No, I like the scene. I like any of these scenes, and we haven't had something like this in a few weeks where it's just a traditional Survivor scene, something that's fun, something that's showing character, has nothing to do with the game. And the first few episodes, we had tons of those, and not so much anymore. I knew at the time that I was watching this, though, that one of his lines would probably end up as your ringtone on your phone. This was definitely Noah's wet dream
I was
scene
jumping
here.
up and down. I was so happy.
But I mean, it's fun to see, a tuk-tuk in there, especially when they're struggling to come up with what the name of the thing was. What were some of the other ones they threw out?
Oh yeah, how did I not mention Keith's name for it? Toto.
Yeah, Toto.
And you probably didn't get hashtags in Canada, do you, Cable? I mean, Colin. You get the hashtag?
Yeah, Cable's Canadian connection.
Well, they didn't get it in Australia either.
Yeah, it's hit and miss. The Canadian network here will override it sometimes with their own, so I didn't see any hashtags.
Oh, it actually said hashtag Totos on the episode. It was amazing. And when I downloaded it, it didn't have that. And I was, no, that was the best bit. Hashtag Totos.
Yeah, I mean, that's classic Keith, too. I mean, he's such a great character, and again, this pretty much fills out what our theory is that it's not that Keith's not doing anything out there. It's that for whatever reason, they just don't find it relevant to show all these hilarious Keith moments. Because, I mean, there's nothing forced about the man. He's not like some people who are just trying to get screen time by taking off their clothes and wandering around beach or something. He's just out there being himself, and if we see something, it's because they decided to include it.
Yeah, just thinking of it now really makes me smile. Cable, did you vote for Keith?
Well, wait. Somebody wander around beach naked, or
well,
Keith driving a Toto?
Depends on who it is, Colin. Depends on who it is.
Well, Colin makes a good point. I think nothing of Keith is forced. It's very natural, and it really happens. He's not playing up to the cameras, whereas there's some people you can sort of look at and go, you know what? They probably are a funny person, or that's a little bit like them, but they definitely play up to the camera. Coach.
Yes.
But, no, that's why I think the Keith moments are really good, and they feel, well, they're genuine. Like even, was it last week with the fish and Kimmy when he was telling...
Yeah.
Don't
get it on fire.
But yeah. Yeah, it was, it was good to see him this week and actually just get to, I'd rather see a little bit more of Keith than Fishback reciting a poem, but that's just me.
Well, Savage currently holds the record for most confessionals this season, so now that he's gone, we might get to see more of Keith and Kimmy and Wigglesworth.
Yes.
Well, Jordan has seemed to have dropped out, but we're trying to get him back. Well, we're not trying that hard, but we're
really
hoping he comes
hated
back.
Keith.
Yeah, he's not coming back if he dropped out because of Toto. All right, let's talk about the meat and bones of this episode. We've got the challenges and the fun little bit out of the way. Hopefully Jordan joins us, but I'm sure he loved the tuk-tuk scene just as much as all of us. So let's talk about, pretty much there was only one storyline this episode. It was Stephen wants Joe out. Joe wins immunity. Joe wants Stephen out. Jeremy doesn't want Stephen out. Jeremy wants to play it safe, so Kelly Wentworth is going out, and we'll get to the tribal council soon. But Colin, was this gripping stuff here? Because it's kind of, it was entertaining, but now when you try and talk about it, it was really just this. It was Stephen Joe, and it made for a decent episode. But then I think someone said at the top of this episode, it made you think, well, if Stephen and Joe are getting all the airtime, it's probably not going to be them going home. It will probably be someone else because it will be too obvious. But what did you make of all of this rivalry of the old Bions, I guess?
No, I liked it, and again, it is very simple, but this is something that we haven't seen in a while. Like last week, it was clear it was pretty much between two people, and it's pretty much always, we've had smaller tribes, so they haven't really had a chance to shake things up like this and have, in this episode, technically, 4 different people were all in jeopardy at one point or another, even though for the majority of the episode it was only 2, or 1 after Joe won immunity. I think the only thing that was kind of a letdown was that the previously on, not the previously on Survivor, the preview for this episode really built this up. Like, it's everybody's out to get everybody, and that's what I was kind of expecting to see, and it did end up just being 2 guys out to get each other. But the great thing about it was that these were people who were all aligned together, and even though Sierra and Abby and Wentworth were the ones on the bottom, I mean, after the first scene of the episode, it was very clear those 3 weren't going to be in jeopardy. And so it was a nice way of editing the episode to have it so focused just on Steven and Joe, so that in the end, when all these votes come out for Wentworth, we'll get to tribal council later, but that was a bit of a surprise just because you didn't know going in, well, what's going to happen now? Everything got shot down. What was really good about this was that because you do have all these people who are aligned together who are targeting each other, and like you said, it wasn't just Joe and Steven. There was a huge invested interest from Savage. There was a huge invested interest from Jeremy in this. I mean, we got to see a lot of everybody else's games just revolving around these 2 players. So there's something about at least Steven and Joe that is dividing these people. And for that reason, I'm glad that we only had 2 people on the block and it wasn't dedicated to everybody targeting everybody.
Well, this is where everything that Wentworth and Sierra are saying is just so true. it's so dangerous to have such a big alliance in Survivor. It never works to have this. What is it, like an 8 or 9 person alliance, and that stems from the 13-person merge. But it's just, as they keep saying, and we'll maybe talk about what Steven says of, well, no, there's no one in charge, which I think is BS. There's definitely some people who are at the bottom of that alliance, but it's just crazy because it's so big and they're starting to go for each other that I think these 3 girls can actually slide through maybe for a few weeks, because until either Steven or Joe are gone, there's going to be this rift. But maybe with Savage gone, that's going to screw up everything altogether. But can I just say, I love the 3-person alliance of Wentworth, Sierra and Abby Maria. I would be so happy if they were the final 3. I'm completely on board with that alliance. Like, it's kind of only been born in the last 2 weeks, but I just love that they're on the bottom, but they're fighting back. And not a huge Wentworth fan, but I like Abby and Sierra, and Abby's better when she's not being annoying. So I'm completely on board with that alliance. But Cable, what did you make of everything that happened at camp this week?
Well, just to go back to something Colin said, it was interesting. He talked about the preview of of this episode that was shown last week. This is one of my criticisms of the show, and I brought this up in one of the Worlds Apart commentaries. Is that sometimes the previously on Survivor gives away too much information to remind you of certain things that you know are going to impact that episode. And the fact that they, in the intro, they had Wentworth, Fishback, and Spencer talk about their second chance. Now, Spencer didn't have a big role in this episode, but, it was talking about... What? Is Jordan back?
No, I'm talking about Spencer not having a big role this episode. But Jordan's back. Yeah.
But, it had Wentworth, and it showed Wentworth getting the idol, so I thought, this might be an episode where she might have to use it. So that was a bit of a giveaway. The same thing happened with Carolyn last year. They didn't reiterate in nearly any of the episodes that Carolyn had an idol until the week she played it. They let us know she got an idol, or, so you kind of knew she might play it. So I sort of thought, Stephen and Wentworth would probably be in the gun, and that's what sort of shits me a little bit. I think they foreshadow it too much sometimes. They just got to...
On that note, sorry to butt in.
Yeah.
That's where, and jumping the gun to Tribal Council here, that's where I kind of thought I knew Savage might be going home, because Jeff Probst brought up, what about idols? And then Spencer was talking about idols. Wentworth was talking about idols. They would not bring up idols if there's nothing to do with idols. Like, it's probably rare that they mention idols unless it's maybe early on or something, or if no one's found one, unless the idol plays a role. So when Kelly Wentworth jumped up, I'm like, well, yeah, she's just been talking about idols for the past 5 minutes. And then right before that, we had a scene of them talking out, followed by a scene of idols. So you're completely right. The previously on Survivor, and just the way this editing works, it doesn't help it a lot. But anyway, I think I butt in there.
Sorry, I forgot what I was saying now. So I was reading something. I was trying to understand what Colin was saying in the chat.
Good one, Colin. He's easily confused. You're right.
Oh, no. Well, going back what you're saying, yeah. So anyway, I think, the previously on did sort of not necessarily spoil it, but probably gave me the heads up that I think Kelly's going to have to play the idol. But in this whole big, alliance, and then obviously you got, like you said, those 3 on the outs. How does Wigglesworth fit in? Because I feel like she's been on the outs in nearly every Tribal Council, but all of a sudden she just doesn't seem to be in danger, or she seems to be in the group but not really. So she's like the ultimate floater.
Yeah.
I think no one's worried about her at the moment.
First of all, I'm just going to say, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I skip the previously on Survivor segments now, just because I don't want anything spoiled right off the bat. I don't think I've watched one since Blood vs. Water 1. But yeah, here's the thing with Wigglesworth. If you're only watching casually, you'd have a hard time figuring out which side she's even supposed to be on, because in this episode we saw her in the middle of the majority alliance making decisions, and then we had her right there with Wentworth and Sierra as they're talking to Joe, trying to sway him on that side, and nobody is really saying, "Oh, well, she's our swing vote." Like maybe she's the ultimate floater, or maybe she has convinced everybody that she's on their side, and they're just not looking at her because she's always in the middle of these scenes on either side of the vote, and it doesn't make any sense watching it anymore.
Well, you know why it doesn't make sense, and you know why we don't know anything about it? Because the editors aren't showing us Kelly freaking Wigglesworth from season 1 of Survivor, a Survivor legend.
In all honesty, this is the game she played. She was in an alliance. She wasn't sure if she wanted to be in that alliance. Now she wants to hang out with the other people. I mean, it's just, it in the first time they could make a storyline around it because it never happened before, but this is a second chance and she's doing the exact same thing, just less interesting.
Is it conceivable that she could almost be the third place GOAT?
If she gets to the end, I wouldn't put her up for a win. I don't think she can win.
No. Yeah, so I'm saying she could make top 3 but get 0 votes.
Yeah, I could see people taking her to the end just for that.
I could see it, but I could also see people being hesitant just because of her story of who she is. But at the same time, these are all-star players who are going to vote for the best player, hopefully, and they probably won't respect her game all that much. Jordan, what did you make of everything that happened between Joe and Spencer, Stephen, and pretty much everything this episode? We didn't get any Stephen poetry this week.
Well, it just seemed like, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't like the episode, the whole episode just centers around Joe and Stephen trying to get Joe out, and then Joe wins immunity, and like, oh, then we got to get Stephen out. Let's get Stephen out, and like that's all that happens in the episode up until Jeremy gets to switch the vote onto Kelly Wentworth, and then regarding, I don't know how much I missed, but regarding Wigglesworth, she was the only one in the reward who didn't get a confessional. Everybody else got a confessional in the reward. Yeah, and I think maybe Abby and Tasha also didn't get a confessional in the episode.
That didn't this week.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, she's just so, nobody knows what she's doing. Like, the only winner to do that was Sandra, I think. She went a long time without a confessional. But this is at a key moment in the game. Sandra wasn't getting confessionals in the pre-merge. But now we're on the post-merge game and just right at the merge. So this is a key moment in the game. This is not a good sign for Wigglesworth.
And the difference, I guess, there also is Sandra wasn't too much of a target until maybe towards the end of the pre-merge, while we had Wigglesworth constantly, well, not constantly, but at the new buy-on, she was a threat to go home and all that. So you think they would have showed her if she was the winner. But one thing I wanted to talk about, we'll get to our closing stuff soon, but Jeremy is an interesting character, I think, because he's kind of been, his meat shield is kind of working. He's been flying under the radar for the past few weeks, and he was the one who he wants to keep Stephen, because Stephen is his Stephen, and he's JT, as I keep saying. Stephen is the Stephen of this season. Is this good? Does Jeremy need Stephen on his board? Because Jeremy kind of wants two things that he can't have. He wants Stephen and he wants Joe as his meat shield. And I think he needs to start to pick sides, because you can't do this forever. Like, yeah, you can pick off the girls for a few minutes, but this is not working. Everyone's fighting with having Joe and Stephen. One of them has got to go. So, I don't know. What's your take on Jeremy, Kate?
Look, I like Jeremy, but I agree with you. I think for him to win, or what in his mind to win, he needs Joe, he needs Fishback. Now, that's all good and proper if he can get through that way. But, I mean, at some point in that group, before Savage went, you got Savage, you got Kimmy, who am I missing? Natasha. At some point, they're going to go, oh, hang on a sec. This is what Jeremy wants. Jeremy's keeping the people he needs to get to the end and or to win. So I agree with you. No, I can't. I don't think you can't have the best of both worlds. At one point, you're going to have to make a decision and back yourself in and pick a particular pony and go with that. You can't have too much. Otherwise, you put a target, I think, more on your back if you're shielding too many other people from the votes as well. So, or you effectively put yourself in the crosshairs by saying, "Oh, we can't get rid of Stephen and we can't get rid of Sierra, or we're going to split the votes here." If you're calling too many of the shots and you're keeping your strength by keeping people you want, then I don't know. In hindsight, if I was Sierra and Wentworth and that, I would have actually voted Jeremy last night, to be honest. I think he's one of the leaders of that group, and I think he has a lot of say in that group as well. So while Savage was probably a little bit of a revenge thing for Sierra as well, and because he's a lead, I think voting Jeremy would have actually been probably the smarter vote. But
that could have sent a good message. I feel like Jeremy's still up there in the power rankings, but this could turn very quickly because one of his biggest meat shields in Savage is gone. People are targeting Joe, so if he goes next week, who's the next biggest physical threat? Well, really, it's probably Heath, but people are going to say that it's Jeremy. So this could be starting to fall apart for Jeremy, but he's still in a pretty good position. Colin, what do you make of Jeremy? And also maybe quickly chuck in your thoughts on this new trio, the girl trio, particularly Sierra, because I know you're a Sierra fan and I haven't really heard your opinions much on Sierra this season. So maybe Jeremy and the trio of girls, the new alliance.
Well, I still think Jeremy's in a great position. I don't even think it matters that Savage is gone. Like, in all honesty, I think we're going to go back and look over the season a second time and see that Savage really didn't matter to anybody's game. I think Savage had a higher opinion of his own position in the game than anybody else. But yeah, I mean, with the whole Joe and Steven thing, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it as seeing this is why Jeremy's game is so good, because he has surrounded himself with so many people that all bring something different. So it's all about, well, if you lose the guy who's the physical threat, you got the guy who's the mental threat who's still there. And then you've got the one that's more vocal like Kimmy, and there's always somebody to take the heat off depending on how people might want to target the votes. And yeah. Jeremy is so quiet for the most part and so calm that maybe the attention isn't on him. I think between Steven and Joe, Jeremy did make his decision this week because he was saying, I'd love to keep Joe around, but if everybody wants him gone the first time he loses, I'll probably have to go along with that. Whereas with Steven, he said, Steven's like 100% loyal to me. I think he pretty much said Steven's going nowhere in his mind. So, and that is the smart choice between those two. He'd be a fool to keep around Joe because there's a very good chance that Joe does try to vote out Jeremy. There's no chance Steven's targeting Jeremy.
He is playing such a better game this time round, Jeremy, from what we're seeing anyway.
Yeah, Jeremy's playing a near perfect game so far. I mean, his name was thrown out there in Tribal Council as one of the potential leaders, but his name was thrown out there with 4 other people who all probably have bigger targets on them.
But again, near perfect is worrisome, though.
Yeah, but I mean, let's look at even Tasha. He has Tasha on his side. I mean, she's made bigger moves in this game than he has. It would be very easy for him to spin that even very subtly to get attention on her. And she's probably next to Joe, I would argue, the biggest physical threat in this game for challenges. I mean, based on her past performance and her performances the last few weeks, her and Keith are right up there. So I really like the game that Jeremy's playing.
How does Steven... How is he so scared of Joe? We know he's a bit of a challenge beast, and he sees him like did he say he's the Moby Dick or something? But
yeah, he's his Moby Dick.
He's the Moby Dick, and I understand that he's probably the number one target in Steven's eyes. I get that, but then wouldn't you think Jeremy is your second target anyway? He just doesn't seem.
Spencer.
Well, that's the
isn't
thing.
Spencer Steven's biggest?
Well, no. Well, absolutely, they're very similar players, but I think from a big, alpha male, you wouldn't. I just don't think he's ever mentioned, Jeremy in that same vein as Joe. And I'm like, I think
it's because they're aligned, maybe, and Joe Stephen probably haven't had too many interactions, I guess.
True. But I think also this is also showing where the whole second chance thing is being taken too literally by some players. You know, Cass was one and Stevens another, where they think your second chance means you just don't do what was your mistake the first time, whereas Jeremy's saying, I'm going to do everything different this time. Spencer's doing the same thing. I'm going to throw whatever I can out there and see what sticks. Because Steven is so focused on, I can't lose to the alpha male again, that he's trying to get rid of Joe, and he's not realizing that it wasn't JT being the alpha male that beat him. It was JT having a connection with people and a way of, in a way, manipulating those people socially that had him win, and that is Jeremy's position. So he should be looking at Jeremy. He's not looking at the game in more than a superficial way.
And what was your thoughts on the three girls in Sierra you were about to mention before?
Oh, I love Sierra. I like the moves that Wentworth has made in this game, but I think, as you said before, her fans are kind of blowing the epicness of her game a little bit out of proportion.
Hey.
Well, let's be honest. Let's look at the move this week. The move this week was great. It's a move we've seen before. I mean, Russell's done this before, and it's really just about one or two idols less than what Malcolm and Reynolds and Eddie did in their season.
But none of them are a hot blonde female.
Well,
especially not Russell.
Yeah.
Russell with a blonde wig.
Here's the thing. I love Sierra, and I really do think that Sierra is the one that has... I think Sierra and Abby are both going very far in this game. I don't think that Wentworth is, because the idol has put more attention on her. And the fact that she's been on the bottom now in two separate tribes, if you include the merged tribe as a tribe, she's been on the bottom twice. And I think her game is more open to people, whereas Sierra is very vocal in what she's doing. And that's what I like about Sierra, because I love the players who just fight for their life. And she's doing it in a way where she sucks at challenges, so she's in the right position in the game where they're not going to be as nervous for her fighting for his life unless she is in control of an alliance, and she's not at this point. Really what I think has happened this week is they've bought themselves an extra week or two. This is Malcolm, Reynolds, and Eddie all over again. And yeah, they may get a little bit further if there's potential to vote out Joe. I don't think Steven's going anywhere, period. But if there's potential to get rid of Joe, they're probably around for another week. But there's still only 3 people who made a very big move. And it was a move of self-preservation, so good on them for making it this week. But I don't think they've bought themselves much more time in the game unless they can go on an immunity run and win every single challenge, which, let's be honest, I mean, Wentworth may have a chance. Sierra and Abby... challenges period. I don't have
both won one individual immunity before. That's more than some of the players on this season.
But if I'm going to look long term, I still do think that Sierra and Abby have a good chance in this game. Especially Sierra at winning, Abby for maybe being a GOAT. Wentworth probably not long for the game.
While I agree with you, Colin, and Wentworth might go next week. I think, like you said, once you play an idol too, that. And you were already the target, you kind of put the target becomes even bigger on your back, especially if you're an easy vote. But having said all that, maybe that'll, that whole tribal council and Sierra being so vocal will wake people up, saying us 3 girls are willing to make a big move to stay in this game. You guys are going to make a decision which team you want to play for. And I can also see, I know what you're saying. I can imagine Wentworth being the next to go, but I can also see maybe Joe going, I want to play with you girls, and somebody else coming over and saying, let's get rid of Jeremy and Steven and whatever. Look, who knows?
I think it would be dumb for people not to utilise them. And I'll just quickly point out, people have been hyper critical of Sierra's play to win stuff. Like, oh, she's being whiny and all this and that's a completely unstrategical thing to do. She's just trying to say anything she can to get people on her side. People are taking it so literal that, oh, how dare she say play to win and all this stuff. But anyway, Jordan, what are your thoughts on Jeremy's game? And you could also add a brief thought on the 3 girls if you wanted to.
What a great move by Jeremy, convincing Savage to turn the vote on to Kelly Wentworth. Savage in the edit's been hell bent on getting rid of Steven from the first episode or the first 2 episodes, and Jeremy just convinces him within 30 seconds to say, okay, it's not time to get rid of Steven, let's just pick off Kelly Wentworth and Sierra and Abby. And it was I don't know how he did it, just, Savage is saying 1 minute in confessional, oh, we got to get rid of Steven, or we got to get rid of, I don't know. I think he definitely wanted to get rid of Steven, especially since he heard Steven talking about Joe to, I think it was Sierra, when he was overhearing what was going on. And he just said that he was, Savage said that he kept hearing Steven talk, bringing Joe's name up, saying Joe, Joe, Joe. And then Jeremy went over to him and said, let's get Kelly out. Let's keep Steven around for a while. And it just, worked on Savage. So it was a great move for Jeremy. And now Jeremy has so many other people to focus on getting out. With everybody voted for Kelly Wentworth, so she's still in there. Spencer and Steven and Joe and and Keith maybe, and Sierra and Abby. Like, he's got so many people that he can turn the vote on and still keep someone as a meat shield. So I think he has a lot of room to play with. And then if he can keep the target off himself, maybe people will. And I'm not particularly rooting for Jeremy, but I think he's got a really good chance to go to the end with all these targets around, and he's kind of lurking in the shadows and not really doing any physical performing in the challenges. And then with the girls, I think in their strategy, this was just like Colin said, self preservation, and it was a really flashy move, and I really loved it. But I don't see someone, especially like Abby or Sierra, getting much further. And I know Sierra says she wants to make big moves, but she keeps making big moves. They'll see, like, oh, we got to get rid of her, we can't trust her, or we got to get rid of her, she might win the game because she's making all these big moves, and the jury's going to respect that. And with Kelly, I think she's Wentworth, I think she's just an outsider, and she could slip in there. She's doing a pretty good job so far. I don't know why the vote was directed onto her. I'm sorry, I keep talking. I don't know why the vote was directed onto her, but if it was, I don't know how good or bad of a shape she's in. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was more of a case of, I think they talked about it on Twitter, they thought she was more of a physical threat or something. I'm not sure why exactly it was on her. We've got to move on. Let us finish up kind of the vote out for this episode. We've kind of talked about the tribal council. Wentworth played her right. It was a great moment. They didn't split the votes, which was a bad move, clearly.
Yeah, why not split the votes?
Yeah, I maintain that you should always split the votes if you have the majority by a margin. If it's a close majority, I can see why you wouldn't, but when you've got 9 against 3, it makes 0 sense.
I do have a theory on that.
Alright, well,
I could throw it out now or later, depending if we're going to discuss it or not.
Well, I wasn't really going to discuss it, but quickly give us your theory.
Well, I mean, we already know that at least Joe and a few others were probably, at least potentially, going to be swaying away from this vote, and it could have just come down to the fact that they worried that, oh, let's split the vote, and maybe Joe and a few others are going to end up voting for us anyways, so they just figured throw whatever we can on one person in the event that somebody does flip.
Yeah,
I mean, I would be looking at Joe thinking, well, we already know he was probably making plans, and let's just not assume that it's going to all go our way this week.
That makes sense, but then I would just be always so paranoid of idols if I played on Survivor. So yeah, Wentworth played at Idol, and it was a record-breaking null votes. It was Wentworth does not count, Wentworth does not count, does not count. Great moment. Savage, and then you could see him doing his best Rob Cesternino impersonation. Oh, no. Oh, it's unbelievable. Which was just brilliant. 3 votes Savage. Great moment. Again, I kind of agree with Colin. I'm not sure how much of a brilliant move it was, but it was a great moment to watch for TV. Savage gets voted out. Oh, at least you meet the jury. Worst Brazilian accent ever. And Savage gives Abby Maria the finger, which was a great moment, and the facial reactions. I'm not sure if they were edited in like that, but that everyone just looked at me like, jeez. And the reactions of everyone when the Idol was played was great. Like, these are all-star players. They're excited by stuff like this. And Sierra and Abby jumping up and down was amazing. Even Spencer was impressed. So Savage goes home. Great Tribal Council. Let us eulogize Andrew Savage. I think a lot of people know my opinion on Andrew Savage. He was not robbed the first time, but let's not get into that.
Don't start that.
Yeah, I voted for him to get on this season. I'm glad he got on. I'm glad he made the merge, because I wanted everyone who didn't make the merge to make the merge. He was a big character, which I wasn't expecting. I thought he'd kind of get a minimal edit. He was great in every episode. I didn't like him, but he made the season damn entertaining, so I appreciate that. Not sad to see him go, but I thought he was a great character this season, so good on you, Savage. Personally, I don't think we'll see him again. I think his story is kind of over. Like, what more can you see from Savage? But I'm glad he was on this season, but I'm not so sad to see him go. What did you think, Jordan? Eulogize Andrew Savage this season.
Pretty much the same as what he did the first time, just leading a tribe and getting screwed by a twist. I mean, I know you're saying he wasn't screwed by the Outcast twist, but he was just, he was the victim of a twist. Like, the Outcast twist, like, he basically got voted out as a result of it. And, but you're right, so was everybody else, but, he blames the Outcast twist, and a lot of people say that it was the Outcast twist that did him in. And now we have another twist, which obviously has been in place for 17 seasons, where the immunity idol. But again, like, it's just he was blindsided a second time, first with the Outcast, and now with the vote off with the idol, and then. Yeah, I think he played a really similar game to the first time. And pretty similar finishing position, like, I guess the same percentage of the way through the game. Like, with 10, he finished in 10th place out of 16, and I finished 12th place out of 20. So, yeah, all in all, I'd say really, really similar, and maybe a little more entertaining. I'm not sure, but yeah, It completely mirrors his first game, in my opinion, and not sorry to see him go, even though he was my pony. So I wasn't liking him, and he's gone. That's about it.
I will say, I think a big part of his demise was his fault, his social game with the girls compared to everyone else.
Correct, yep.
But anyway, Cable, I think you're a Savage fan, but eulogize him on this season. Can he come back? Was he good? All that stuff.
Firstly, I don't think we'll see him back. I don't know why I feel that way. I just maybe...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, they showed him enough, and he was probably... I think Jordan just said it. I think he was more entertaining for me than he was in Pearl Islands. And I don't know the confession count in comparison, but he played very similar. Even though I was a fan of him in Pearl Islands and wanted to see him back and voted very much for him, this time around I did sort of enjoy him, but I didn't like his sour grapes mentality sometimes. Like, not everyone can win, and I think, yeah, he was a bit sookie lala for me, a bit too much, and especially with giving the bird on the way out. I'm like, mate, you should be a bit classier than that. So he kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Having said all that too, I feel like he was probably unlucky to go tonight. Like, I could have kind of wish he had got blindsided on a night when he thought he was absolutely safe and he had this master plan to get rid of, whether it's Spencer or Sierra or something else. It would have been good to see him go out sort of John Carroll style, like when he was maybe arrogant and cocky, not an innocent kind of bystander tonight, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about Mr. Savage.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see him back again either.
Yeah, I agree. That could happen, but anyway. Colin finishes off with Andrew Savage.
Well, first, just in terms of the vote on Savage, I have to say again, that was one of the things that I loved about this episode because it was kind of a surprise. I remember just before the vote happened, I turned to my wife and said, they're probably going to vote Wentworth. She's probably going to play her idol. And then she's like, well, who's going to go? And I'm like, Steven. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, if they put the votes on Steven, that would be a terrible idea. And this is where another area where I'll give credit to Sierra and Abby and Wentworth, because if they had targeted Steven, then one of the other targets that would potentially save them down the road's gone. So going for Savage, a player that I honestly believe everybody was just indifferent towards, was really the smart move to make this week. And the fact that, as I said, I believe that the other players were indifferent to Savage is, I think, kind of how the audience will go out thinking about him. I never had a problem with him in Pearl Islands. I didn't love him in Pearl Islands, but I didn't mind him. I was always excited to see him come back because, whether he is kind of, like you said, sour grapes or a bit of a baby at times or not, he always was passionate about what was going on in the game. And that's something that we didn't really get this year from some people I thought we would, like Sierra or Vitas. So he gave it his all in the game. His game is very flawed. I don't think he's going to come back, but I will say that, like you were saying, Noah, this is one of those odd situations where even though I wasn't really more of a fan of him this year, I think that he's hands down one of the top 3 or 4 most important players up until this episode, because without him, the show is less interesting. I do think that especially the last 2 weeks, his character's taken a downturn, where last week my biggest complaint was that it was also negative and it was just bickering, and he seemed to be taking it way too personally. And I saw the same thing this week. He also seemed to be on a bit of a high horse this week. Whenever he was approaching people with strategy, it was almost like he thought he was the godfather. So I will say on a final note on Savage that him going out, I was assuming his final comments would be like just so nasty and I got screwed and everything. And again, maybe it's just the season rubbing off on everybody, but he went out pretty understanding, and his final comments weren't really, crying about anything. He was just sort of, well, I'm glad I had the chance to play the game again, and good move on them. So, he didn't tarnish his legacy completely. He's, as we said, he's just exactly where he was when he came into this game.
Yeah, his Ponderosa is really entertaining as well. If you haven't watched it, yeah, it's great. That's it then. Andrew Savage is out of this season. There's 11 people left. Next week we've got something. There may be idols at the challenge, or there's going to be an advantage or something. So that should be exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be great.
Yeah, that should be good. But then at the same time, the rest of camp is people are looking for idols, which is my least favorite thing in survival. I hate wasted airtime of there's an idol hunt. It's just getting so old. But anyway, that's something we can bitch about next week. Before we wrap up, we don't have the predictions because Ben didn't leave them. He was too busy stroking his cat. Jordan lost his pony, as we know. So bye-bye, Jordan.
That's all right.
The power rankings. It was everyone but me, so I wasn't going to bring them up. But thank you, Colin. Everyone but me gets a point, and I was close if I just moved one position, but I suck. So we don't have all that stuff. We don't have Guess the Song Zachary Chong because let's face it, that's probably the worst segment on this show since Ben's brought to you by questions. So hopefully that segment dies. But anyway, hello Zachary Chong.
I hope it dies another day.
Yeah. Let's end it. I miss PR, Karen. Let's end it with hashtags. Hashtag for the episode of Survivor. Hashtag for the episode of Survivor Oz. Colin, go.
Well, for the episode of Survivor, just because we did miss it on Global here in Canada, and I think it's hilarious that they did make a hashtag for somebody saying something really stupid, I'm going to go with hashtag Totos. And for Survivor Oz, it's only appropriate. Hashtag enjoy cats, Ben.
Jordan, hashtag.
For the Oztopsy, hashtag computer restart, because that's what my computer did randomly.
Hashtag the Islanders are gone.
Right. Yeah. And for the episode of Survivor, hashtag, I don't know.
Hashtag I don't know. All right.
Yeah, Idle Savage. I have no idea.
All right, and Cable finishes off.
All right, so hashtag for this episode is hashtag Noah watched 5 times. And the episode, I'm going to say the bird is the word.
The bird is the word.
Just because Savage gave the bird out twice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, flip the bird, yes.
And
the T-word.
Cable. Subtle hashtag. I like it.
Cass and Savage, this was probably the double flip-off episode. Have we ever had that before?
Yeah, double flip-off.
Cass on the jury was great, too.
Yeah, Cass, yeah.
Actually, the other thing I wrote down, I can't believe we didn't discuss, Sierra's eye rolls were amazing.
Oh, yeah, that was great. Yeah, I loved that. That's like Eliza Orland's worthy.
Yeah, they were great. Yeah.
That's a good point. We do need to finish up with our questions. My hashtag is hashtag where the hell is Ben, hashtag memories, hashtag meow. So who is everyone's next to go pick? Colin, just quick fire, no time for explanations, quick fires. Colin, who's next to you?
Wentworth.
Jordan.
Joe.
Cable.
I hate to say it, but I think maybe Wentworth.
Quick fire, Cable, no explanation.
How dare you say you hate to say it? Cable, who is your dark horse to win? Or who's your winner pick?
Well, my winner pick was Wentworth, so I'll still stick with Wentworth then.
And your dark horse, give it to him. Wait, Wentworth's next to go and she's winning? Alright, anyway.
Well, that's it. Well,
damn, if we only had explanations, we would know.
I don't criticise your pre-season predictions, Noah, so... did you say dark horse? I still think Fishback would have to be the dark horse.
Jordan, winner and dark horse.
Winner is Jeremy. No. Let me go with Tasha, because I picked her week 1, Tasha. And I guess dark horse is Jeremy.
And Colin finishes on.
I'm going to break the rules and speak more than I'm supposed to, and also pick 2 winners, because I'm going to go Jeremy and Tasha to win, because I don't really consider either a dark horse, but I'll go with Spencer for the dark horse.
Cool, that's it. If you're a Ben fan, sucks to be you, because I will be back again, because Ben's still going to be hunting his cats, so hopefully he finds one eventually. And that was probably an oxymoron, Ben and fan, but anyway, hello Ben. That's it, Survivor Oz, subscribe to our everything. We've got iTunes, email, website, whatever, you know the drill. We ask you to do stuff for us at the end of the episode. Whatever, I'm not the professional like Ben is. Just let us know what you thought. That's it. Colin, thanks for being here, and goodbye, good night, and good day, whatever.
Goodbye, good night, good day to you too, Toto.
Toto, yeah. How was it not a Wizard of Oz? Yeah, Jordan, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, hopefully the Islanders are found sometime. And Cable, you too. Thanks for
thanks for having me, and hashtag Team Wentworth.
Alright, we'll be back for the next episode of Survivor titled Witch's Coven next Thursday, Friday, whenever this is up. It's not going to be live again. Sorry, Catherine. Sorry, Zachary. And again, Ben won't be there, but we're going to have fun anyway. And that's it. So, loving this season. Keep us up to date, and we'll say that we will speak to you next time on the Kitten Train.
Yeah.